On May 2nd, 2026, the bright yellow planes disappeared from American skies. Spirit Airlines canceled its future flights, told passengers not to go to the airport, and began shutting down after 34 years in business. If you hated Spirit, that might sound like good news. No more tiny seats, surprise bag charges, or paying extra for almost everything except the air inside the cabin. But don't celebrate too quickly, because Spirit didn't only make its own tickets cheap. Its presence could force every other airline on the route to charge less. In the JetBlue merger case, Spirit estimated that average fares fell 17% when it entered a route. JetBlue's own analysis estimated that fares rose 30% when Spirit left one. That means Spirit may have saved you money even if you swore you would never step onto one of its planes. Its ugly little fare sat in the search results, forcing every competitor to explain why its ticket cost more. Now that pressure is gone. So how did the airline that taught America to fly cheap become trapped by the very business model that made it successful? The answer begins with the number that appeared first when you searched for a flight. Spirit's whole system was built to make that number look almost impossibly low. The company began as a charter tour business and eventually became an ultra-low-cost carrier. That meant stripping the flight down to one basic product, a seat from one city to another, and separating almost everything else. Want to choose the seat? That costs extra. Bringing a larger carry-on? Extra, checking a bag? Extra, want a drink or snack? You already know the answer. People called it nickel and diming. Spirit argued that customers at other airlines were already paying for those services. They just couldn't see each charge separately. And financially, the system was clever. By 2023, Spirit reported earning about $53 in fare revenue per passenger segment and nearly $69 in non-ticket revenue. In other words, the extras were no longer a little bonus added to the ticket. On average, they brought in more money than the fare itself. The cheap seat got your attention. Everything surrounding it made the trip financially possible. A startlingly low base fare brought people to Spirit's website and appeared first when travelers sorted by price. Then bags, seats, priority boarding, food, and other extras increased what each passenger actually paid. Spirit described it as a cycle. Lower fares attracted more passengers, creating more opportunities to sell extras, which helped support even lower advertised fares. The operation behind that price was just as stripped down. Spirit packed in more seats, focused on one Airbus aircraft family, and kept its planes flying as much as possible to spread each aircraft's cost across more passengers. Spirit's aircraft spent an average of more than 11 hours a day carrying passengers in 2023. That productivity was an advantage, but it also meant disruptions could spread quickly. A plane delayed early in the day might still have several more flights waiting behind it. And when the formula worked, it really worked. Spirit grew from a punchline into a threat. The effect wasn't limited to bargain hunters. When one airline lowered its fare, competitors risked losing anyone comparing prices. The government eventually gave that pressure a name: the Spirit effect. Spirit's analysis found that when it entered a route, fares across the market tended to fall and more people traveled. That could mean the difference between driving and flying, skipping a family visit and making it, or taking one vacation instead of none. Spirit wasn't luxurious, but it put a real price ceiling on routes that might otherwise cost much more. The biggest airlines responded with basic economy, a cheaper, more restrictive ticket designed partly to compete with Spirit without lowering the price of every seat. Spirit had changed the market and created a dangerous problem. Traditional airlines could now show stripped-down fares in the same results, so Spirit no longer owned the low-price lane. Those airlines could offer a basic ticket while keeping better schedules, bigger networks, loyalty points, premium cabins, lounges, and credit card benefits. Spirit's price-sensitive customers suddenly had more choices. Then the pandemic hit. Air travel collapsed, and Spirit lacked the profitable long-haul cabins, large corporate travel base, and enormous credit card partnerships that cushioned some major airlines. Travel returned in a different shape, while labor, airports, maintenance, and fuel became more expensive. Those costs hurt everyone, but Spirit had less room to pass them along. An extra $20 may disappear inside a premium ticket. On a Spirit fare advertised for $49, it can destroy the entire reason the customer clicked. Then a problem arrived that had nothing to do with customer service or bag fees. In 23, Pratt & Whitney announced that hundreds of its geared turbofan engines needed accelerated inspections because of contaminated metal powder. Spirit had bet heavily on the Airbus A320neo family powered by those engines. Suddenly, part of its young fleet had to stay grounded, while lease payments, financing costs, facilities, and portions of payroll kept running. Spirit expected grounded NEO aircraft to climb from roughly 13 at the beginning of 2024 to around 40 by December. For a company dependent on keeping planes airborne, that attacked the machinery of the model. Spirit reached a compensation agreement with Pratt & Whitney, but compensation couldn't make grounded aircraft carry passengers or rebuild a disrupted schedule. Meanwhile, Spirit spent years planning for a merger that never happened. Frontier first proposed combining with it. Then JetBlue arrived with a richer offer, and Spirit agreed to a $3.8 billion acquisition. The JetBlue deal offered investors an escape, but it also created a strange strategic waiting room. Spirit was still competing independently, while preparing to become part of a very different airline, one that planned to remove seats and eliminate the Spirit brand. But in January 2024, a federal judge blocked the deal. The court agreed with the government that eliminating Spirit would reduce low-fare competition and likely raise prices for travelers. The consumer argument was powerful. JetBlue planned to remove seats from Spirit's planes and replace the no-frills product with a more expensive one. Regulators argued that some price-sensitive travelers wouldn't merely pay more, they would be priced out of flying. That ruling protected the idea of Spirit as an independent, low-cost competitor. It could not guarantee that Spirit was still financially strong enough to remain one. The airline had spent valuable time operating under merger restrictions while its market changed around it. When the deal disappeared, Spirit had to build a standalone rescue plan under intense pressure. It sold and leased back aircraft, reduced commitments, cut routes, furloughed employees, and tried to reshape its product. Spirit introduced more bundled and premium options to attract travelers who wanted more than the lowest fare. But becoming more traditional required new benefits and costs, while remaining Spirit meant fighting for the market's most price-sensitive customers. It was trying to escape the business model without losing the customers the business model had attracted. And every step toward a more generous product risked adding cost to a company whose identity had always been built around removing it. By the time Spirit entered Chapter 11 in November 2024, it had lost more than $2.5 billion since 2020. It emerged in March 2005 after cutting debt, but restructuring a balance sheet doesn't repair the business underneath it. Only months later, Spirit filed again. It could renegotiate debt, return aircraft, and shrink the schedule, but shrinking also meant fewer seats over which to spread fixed costs. A smaller airline wasn't automatically healthier. By spring 26, Spirit was already weakened by years of losses, debt, grounded aircraft, competition, and an identity crisis. Then jet fuel prices surged during the conflict involving Iran. Fuel did not create every crack in Spirit's business. It hit a company that no longer had enough cash or flexibility to absorb another shock. Rescue efforts failed. Spirit operated its last flights, grounded the yellow fleet, and entered an orderly wind-down. For travelers holding future tickets, the impact was immediate. Flights vanished, passengers had to find replacement seats, and airlines temporarily offered rescue fares while refund questions moved into Spirit's shutdown and bankruptcy process. But those discounts were temporary. The longer-term change is simpler. On every route Spirit left behind, the remaining airlines lost a competitor willing to break ranks and put an aggressively low number on the screen. That is what makes Spirit's collapse more important than a story about an airline people love to complain about. Spirit didn't fail because charging for bags was obviously ridiculous. Unbundled pricing helped make it successful, and versions of it are now everywhere. It also didn't prove that every ultra-low-cost airline is doomed. Similar models still work in other markets when costs, routes, aircraft, and competition line up differently. Spirit failed because a model built for extreme efficiency became fragile when several of its assumptions broke at once. The planes couldn't all fly, costs wouldn't stay low, competitors could match the headline fare, the merger couldn't close. Travelers wanted different products, and the company had too much financial pressure to wait for conditions to improve. For years, Spirit made cheapness its greatest advantage. Eventually, cheapness became a promise it could no longer afford to keep. And there is one final irony. Regulators blocked JetBlue's purchase because Spirit's low fares mattered to consumers. 2 years later, Spirit was gone, and so was the competitor the ruling was meant to preserve. Other budget airlines may replace some of those flights, but where they don't, you have one fewer choice, fewer cheap seats, and one less reason for the airlines that remain to keep their lowest fares low. Spirit charged passengers for almost everything, but the one thing it gave consumers for free was pressure on every other airline. The yellow planes are gone. The next time you search for a flight and wonder why the cheapest option suddenly isn't very cheap, their absence may be part of the answer. That's what was hiding past the fine print. If you like discovering how business decisions quietly change what you pay, subscribe. There's a lot more hiding in plain sight.